Hello and welcome to the Green Team Podcast, where we talk about speculative fiction and stuff. My name is Heron Fan, and I'm joined today by my constant companion, Ashman.
Hello, everybody.
Hip,
Hey.
and no Wombat today. Um, he would probably say hey if he was here. We are doing a buddy read on the server of Book of the New Sun, and I thought it would be fun to record us talking about the first book, The Shadow of the Torturer by Gene Wolfe. If you came here looking for an in-depth discussion on the minutiae, look somewhere else. We're not trying to be the Gene Wolfe Literary Podcast, rereading Wolf or Alzable Soap. Go listen to them if you want that. But if you want to hear some ignorant dudes talk about Shadow of the Torturer for a while, stick around and don't say I didn't warn you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm joining this recording basically under protest, but
Yeah, we twisted his arm.
I
yeah,
know nothing.
I definitely do want to come back to this at some point and do an in-depth analysis, or like a try at it, and we'll do that years down the line when Kieran and I have cleared off our enormous backlog of series we're covering.
It's big. It's big. But those podcasts that I mentioned, they're really good. Go listen to them. I'm subscribed to all of them. So if I say anything that sounds like it, I probably just cribbed it from them. And oh yeah, and Ash, have I read this before? And Kip has not.
Brand new.
We're not going to go into like anything past this book, by the way, so don't worry about that. So what do you think about Mr. Severian? He seems to be the main character. How about we get our impression from our new reader?
I was expecting this. I like Severian. I think he's an interesting character. His journey in this book did not go anywhere near where I expected it to. After like the 30% mark, it was off the rails.
I think that's most people's first it doesn't go anywhere you expected, and it will continue to not go anywhere where you expect it to go.
Cool.
Yeah,
But he
a lot
seems
of
like an interesting guy, and with some unique gifts and a very murky fate.
there are a lot of people that
What
really dislike Severian, and I'm like neutral to positive on him generally.
my thoughts as Severian are heavily influenced by his character arc and where I see him as the writer of this piece instead of as the uh, person in Severian's memories. So I'll say that I always thought he was very interesting. I thought the POV was really, really well done. I love how close it is, but I can't say I liked him because I think most people when they start reading this book, they're like, "Oh, it's a torturer. Wow, what a piece of crap!" Right? Um,
It was just
and
a
he,
job.
it's just a job.
And one that he was born into.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which a lot of people don't seem to
It was his guild.
want to think about.
You don't
It's
go
like
against your guild.
Yeah.
unless you're sleeping with a 8 foot tall sexy lady who seduces you, and she's tortured and you
Yeah, well, his instruction on women was lacking.
to say
Hmm.
the least.
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
How many women are in this story? Like we got Agia, uh,
Dorcas,
Thecla,
Thecla,
Dorcas,
um,
Jolenta, but she's
Vodalis
barely in
is
this one.
Vodalis
Yeah,
is Thea, yes. And then
The witch.
yeah, the girl, what's her name? In the Atrium Time.
yes. What was
Yes.
her name?
And then the concubines at the fake House of the Absolute.
The Kybits.
The
And also the
Kybits.
most beautiful woman in existence.
Jolenta. Yeah. There's more significant female characters in this than there are male characters, right?
Master Gerlos, Master Palaemon. I'd say the other apprentices aren't that important. Severian, Boldanders, Talos, Jonas, but he was introduced in like the last chapter, right?
Yep. There's Agilus.
Agilus, yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, it's about
Mhm.
the same.
I feel like in the jungle section of the botanical gardens, there was equal numbers, maybe? Or was there one more man?
In that section specifically?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so there's
Who are the
Vodalis's henchman that showed up.
Yep.
And Henrik. Um,
There's the guy in the
and
boat
then the boatman. Yeah.
looking for his wife.
Well, yeah, looking
Well,
for his wife
that's not
Cass.
the jungle section, though.
Yeah, it was in the
It's
botanical
it's
gardens,
one
though,
of the
wasn't it not?
botanical gardens, but yes, it's not the jungle section. It's like the
The
marshy
jungle
Yeah.
section.
section I remember are the missionaries, where there was a one man and one
Yes.
woman. The man was a little crazy.
And it
Oh, were
seems like
there?
they're from our time.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I believe they're like African missionaries, and they saw an airplane in the sky, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we know that it's airplanes that look like our airplanes, not ones that flap their wings.
Yeah, they
Because
weren't orange
Severian remarked
hoppers,
on it.
and the sun was all bright. It's like, wow, strange.
Oh, and then there's the curators, the two curators,
Oh,
Master
I love
Elton
those.
and the, the painting cleaner guy.
Oh, okay, I think we listed all of the somewhat kind of tertiarily important male and female characters in the
Oh,
book.
Triskull, of course. Triskull is male,
Scaly?
I think.
Sure. Triskelion sounds like a boy dog name. Although
Yeah,
Although
absolutely.
we are explicitly told that he's not important, so we can probably safely disregard him entirely for this discussion, right?
yeah, he's not important. He keeps showing up though in your dreams.
Yeah.
Kip, what characters stood out to you other than Severian, of course?
I mean, Aegea, first and foremost, I think.
She's
Uh,
she's interesting.
she's certainly that. Um, the the way that she is portrayed as like this base creature of the common slums, but also the apple of Severian's eye. It, like she was the one I loved the most. Do you know that? No one's gonna understand this. Her that I first saw.
She's not the one
But
that he loved the most, but
Yeah,
she was like sexy hot, and he's like, I gotta
yeah,
have that. But I don't love her like I love Thekla, right? It's just
Thekla
like
yeah.
or
in
Dorcas or
The one that he lusted after the most. She was definitely some superlative.
yes, I think that's the best way to put it. Like she was the most lustily looked after by Severian, which is an interesting take. Um, and also she's wearing almost nothing because she's wearing literally like rag shop
rags.
clothes
Yeah,
from a costume shop that fall off her body.
I
constantly.
mean, she could instead be wearing armor. We know she has a suit of that, so
Yeah.
it's still a choice for her to wear these rags and, you know,
The
Well,
costume brocade.
she's obviously trying to seduce Severian somehow.
yes. Or if not seduce him, at least cloud his judgment so that he's easier to trick.
Do you think she's actually attracted to him whatsoever?
Mm,
As an object.
Just like she just wants a sword and his claw and
No, she likes the idea of tricking him, of possessing him as a thing to be won.
mm. 'Cause that's what she's good at, right? She's
Yeah.
obviously done this a few times. All right, I can see that.
No, I don't think she actually cares about who he is.
I think she cares about who he is, just not in the way that
Severian
uh,
does.
yeah, I mean, like she cares about him by the end, right? in a sense that she really hates his guts.
Sure.
Yeah.
Did you have
It's a ways
any
it's a ways
pity
down
or
the road.
sympathy towards Agia?
Like for me, it really depends on what you mean by sympathy. But yeah, sure, some. I mean, she's got kind of a horrible existence, but she also brings a lot of the horrible stuff upon herself, like her and her brother. Like they are basically entirely responsible for what happens to him.
Yeah.
Yep.
And of course, Severian says they must have done this kind of thing many times before, so they're just kind of like luring people into their shop, challenging them, killing them, and taking all their stuff. So
I get the feeling that they're no different from like the vast majority of the populace inside the Commonwealth, though, and they
yes,
kind of
yes,
represent the
Oh, sure.
depravity and the
how
sinful
far
nature
everybody has
and
fallen.
exactly.
Yeah.
And looking at it like that, like even though, because like when Severian went with Talos and Baldanders, right? They just go to some shop, and outside the shop, there's some dead dude. First thing Talos does is check in pockets, and he's like, he's got some money.
I
He's just
mean,
like, people don't bat an eye at this. Although Severian's not very perceptive, so
There's
maybe
a
they are.
moral distinction between checking a dead guy's pockets for some cash and constructing an elaborate ruse with your brother that involves the ritual combat and death using a warmed up plant
Your
as the
identical
method of
brother,
assassination.
whom all of what you guess is true. Is that what she said when she found them naked together?
mhm.
See, I think there's more to that statement. I think there's a lot more to that statement instead of
Yeah.
just we're sleeping together.
What do you think is more to that?
We could probably talk about it in the future, but I think that there's this conspiracy going on, and I don't think that they're just there just to steal Severian stuff.
I think they're
Um,
the same person.
Aggie, like clones or something.
Aegea and Agilis, yes, I think they're the same person, and they have some sort of mental telepathy, and so they feel it when one of them dies.
Like twins of our world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This is a twin thing,
Yeah.
but real and confirmed and scientifically testable in this world.
Speaking of scientific, could we move on from, I guess, Agia?
Sure,
There's a lot of interesting sciencey things, and Kip is our science guy.
extremely.
Anything that stood out to you?
Ooh, the fish.
The fish.
The fish. Yes.
The
Yes.
fish.
Father Inire's mirrors.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
This method of FTL transport that is based off of like holographic reconstruction and constructive interference between light. I think it's pretty cool. And I think that it naturally follows that there would be, as have been heavily implied at this point in time, some sort of decoherence in the trip. And there would be a loss of information, a loss of integrity. And that's where the Kakugenes come from.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Well, there's something I love about the mirrors, and it's kind of present in thematically throughout the whole story, is constructing something real from a facsimile or from a simulacrum, and I think that's the story in general, right? So I think Wolf is trying to create truth from a lie, in telling us about the Book of the New Sun.
Well, also, the the girl that is at the end of the story, is she the same girl that went into the mirror room in the first place?
Oh, it's Severian.
No.
No. Yeah, this is a commonly accepted fan theory. I think that he gets teleported across dimensions basically by this.
Yep.
Yeah, by Father Inire. Why does he do this? That's a good question, but it certainly sets
It
a precedent.
And why is
gets
he
his
only
kicks from it.
interested in little girls too?
Yeah. Hmm.
Hmm.
I mean, they're exultants, right? So they're probably like 5 feet tall at that point.
Yeah, Father Nier, interesting dude.
Is your argument that they're not little girls anymore? They're probably 5 feet tall.
They're, like exultants, like what even counts as human in this story? Like there's all sorts of like quiet body horror going on in this series. Like for example,
It
Jolenta,
does
like
seem like humanity got it got some major patch notes
yes,
after FTL travel.
and there's so much variety and like even so Jolenta, she's called the most beautiful woman that Severian's ever seen, but there are like all sorts of hints that like her body is like seriously messed up from what Dr. Talos did to her. Like she cannot walk for extended periods of time. And like her spine is just completely bowed out of shape by her voluptuousness. And like she can't like if she walks any amount of time like sure like she can't basically, but also she gets an exceptional amount of chafing. Which it
Classic
makes
deal with
you
the
raise
devil.
an eyebrows like what is Severian looking at? What does he see?
I have no idea. Because yeah, the ways she's described is like incredibly beautiful, and she could get any man that she wants, and yet what he's actually describing sounds just grotesque.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And there's also it's not master, well, is it Master Glows? Like one of them has like this like seeing apparatus on their face that like must be terrifying to their clients. um
I mean, they all have their mask, and that seems terrifying enough.
yes, that
The
too.
Foolagen material seems like Vanta Black.
Yeah,
Yeah, basically.
Which is
But
pretty
Fanta
fun.
Black hadn't been invented then.
Correct. But it had been theorized,
Mm.
if perhaps not its exact mechanism of action.
Fun fact: we have Vanta Black now, but we also have this paint that's so incredibly white that it's cooler than the ambient temperature around it. Like so, if you paint something white like this color of white in sunlight, it'll actually cool what is on
Hmm.
because it's so good at reflecting the light away from itself.
that's cool.
That's fun.
Right?
So this is pretty famously an unreliable narrator, much like a lot of Gene Wolfe protagonists.
I'll trust you on that one.
How much how much do you trust Severian? Is
Yeah,
there anything in particular that stood out to
yeah.
you? And not just Severian, because we find out at the end of the story that this is being translated by GW, a construct created by Gene Wolfe that happens to have his own name. And he's like, well, this yeah, sometimes the words may be wrong. So we got an extra layer right there. He's like, I could be making some mistakes as a
Yeah,
translator.
I just put in extinct animals and I just put in Latin.
Yeah, him and the community of scholars of future times have collaborated with this on this, and they've all spent some time in that time frame, and this is what they've come out with. Um, yeah, so when it comes to trusting Severian, I'm not say I sure I would say I trust him, but insofar as I differ from a lot of other readers of the work, I don't think that he's a liar, at least not deliberately. Um, I think that he's being earnest in what he is saying, and the story is more interesting if you take him take what he's saying earnestly. But this is not to say that you cannot read in between the lines and see that Severian himself is missing something or obfuscating something or painting himself or others in a certain light to try and lead you to his own conclusion. But this is what a lot of us do. and the nature of his memories, while he doesn't forget things, I don't think, they're the nature of them is still very flawed, in a lot of ways that I think are non-obvious to readers or to people who don't have eidetic memories themselves.
I'll say my first time reading at the beginning, and even just to overshadow the torture, I started to buy into what's very insane, partially because that's literally the only thing we have. I have to take it at some sort of value and have to accept at least part of what he's saying. And along the way, I guess, throw out the stuff. I didn't trust him as far as I could throw the book. Um, but little by little, I'm just like, okay, I guess I have to. But Kip, what do you think?
I trust him a little bit less than I trust Mycroft Canner from Terra Ignota. I trust him to tell an interesting story. I trust him to have bits of the truth in there to try and assuage his own guilt. I don't trust him much more than that.
His own guilt over what?
Huh? His own guilt over becoming emperor of all time and space. I don't know.
We know he becomes the Autarch at least.
Yeah. But what is that?
Good question.
So-
Autarch means self-ruler.
I'm also
helps.
gonna think he becomes the conciliator. But what is that?
No, the conciliator died long ago.
Oh no. Yeah, time definitely only works in one fashion in this universe. Yeah.
The Autarch is at least basically a regional ruler on Earth at this point.
For the Commonwealth, at least.
Yeah, which, by the way, is in South America.
We know this because he talked about things getting colder down south, and I think when he was
Warmer
talking
as you
about
go north.
yeah, and
Yeah.
then when I forgot what part it was in the botanical gardens, he said the Autarch made it so that he could talk to people in another part of the world at the same time. And he said in that part of the world, the stars were facing a certain way, and that's how you know that that was actually on the other side of the globe from South America. And I believe it was somewhere in Northern Europe or something.
Yes, time and space is very wimey.
Yeah,
wibbly wobbly.
I got that. And also I got that they're living inside a giant spaceship or on the surface of it.
The Madichin Tower, yes.
Madichin Tower, yeah.
Well, Madichin Tower, yes, is a part of a spaceship, but
oh, you're talking about
how big does that spaceship go underneath? Is Nessus a spaceship as well?
That's a very good question. I don't think so. I don't have any idea what Nessus is supposed to be and why it's surrounded by a gigantic circular wall made of space metal.
I think that's the bottom of the engine. It's embedded in the planet and just crashed there one day and has become a city since.
Okay.
/ maybe the planet was built up around it, or maybe it was built into the planet. I don't know. But I don't believe that it's just a wall. I think it goes deeper than that.
I think there's definitely something there, and that's an interesting theory. I like it.
It is. I don't think I believe it, but yeah, it's interesting.
Because they keep talking about no, the city wasn't built so that we could fill it. the wall was not placed so far away so that Nessus would one day expand and fill the whole crater.
Yeah, like this civilization is one built on top of like at least 10 others, like 10 previous ones, right?
Yeah.
Um, they're like at one point Severian says that like, oh, this this stuff that we walk on, this ground that we walk on, is really just degraded materials that like were previously processed. Like none of this is natural anymore.
Yeah.
It's just all built upon layers of artificiality that organic growth comes out of, and then more artificiality, then more organic growth. Kind of like the story itself, which it's very meta. Well done, Gene.
Yes.
I mean, like,
comes up a lot.
yeah,
part of the
like,
deep time nature of the background.
yeah, yes, the sun has become red and weak.
At least it's the same everywhere. And there's like maybe not every when, but
Yeah, speaking of which, like, what is the new sun?
the new sun is the alchemically created sun that Severian will bring about in not too long. That's my opinion.
Okay.
And everything's going to be just jolly after.
Yeah, it's going to restart the solar system's life cycle.
Okay. Were there any?
So maybe alternate theory, the new sun is the one that this whole planet is about to pack up, or the whole city is about to pack up inside the spaceship and go travel to and celebrate because the solar system's done, and so the new sun is in a new location.
Okay. Interesting.
Those are my two theories.
Were
Third theory. Severian takes the old sun back from a time in Earth's past in like a different dimension and brings that forward, and it's now our new sun.
Thereby screwing over the previous owners of the sun.
Yes.
All right.
It's ours
all
now.
right.
I mean, it would be on brand for both Severian and the people of Earth.
Was there anything that stood out to you in terms of Severian either being blind and not understanding something that the reader might, or something that just kind of screams Severian is lying?
I mean, he didn't understand the moon landing.
But that just comes from ignorance, I think, right?
Yeah. He was blind.
Okay.
Dorcas.
Mhm.
Dorcas is what I have called as a resurrection underneath the water,
Interesting. Why do you say that?
because it's like well established that that place is only for dead people and dead bodies. And yet when Severian goes down with the claw and Terminus Est, with the claw, which has been set up to allow for resurrections, like that was one of its stated powers, suddenly there's a live girl in there.
Yeah, she was just knocked out by some hooligans and left
I
around.
I don't take casual amnesia by my narrator around the appearance of brand new women lightly.
That's probably smart.
Well, if I'm sure you guys both noticed, but the scene itself is very reminiscent of the Lady of the Lake.
Oh yeah, sure.
I thought it was very reminiscent of him almost drowning earlier in the book,
I guess it can be. Oh yes, earlier in the book. Yeah, that too. Yeah.
which is
I don't
also
know.
very reminiscent of the Lady in the Lake.
I saw clear inspiration from Coral in the 5th season.
Okay.
I'm just joking, but yeah.
I don't remember Coral. Sorry.
Yeah, me neither. Like
Yeah,
I read the 5th season, like the first book of the 5th season. I think that's
seems to be a
it's
lot
called the
of
5th season,
almost
right?
drowning in this book. Lots of water,
Mm-hmm.
lots of imagery of water, especially in the dreams, which I will not get into.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think about that mythology around the water being that is destined to destroy devour the continents at some point?
I thought it was climate change.
Climate change?
Well, if we get
I
a
thought
new
it was
sun, that'll
I
probably
thought it was just about glaciers melting and destroying coastal areas.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe there is a creature at the heart of the world that desires its destruction. Who knows?
maybe its crown is the circle around Nessus.
Ooh.
Oh.
Maybe it's indicative of like a dark interstellar forest, though I don't think so.
Hmm.
We touched on it slightly, but shall we talk about Severian's memory?
Yes.
How how d- how does Severian's memory, do you think, shape his identity?
Quite a bit.
Because he seems to talk about it a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot, and he likes to remind us that he does not forget things like other people do, and that he is what is it? He is trapped by his memory, so to
It's
speak.
his joy and his curse that he forgets nothing.
He calls it a curse. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think calling it a blessing and a curse is extremely apt. I think that the way that he remembers things, I think that his memory is so total that when he remembers things, he is transported back to the the mindset that he was in at the time, and he finds it very difficult to separate that mindset and that experience from the actual events themselves. I think he has very little capacity to really abstract his memories and kind of like dissect them in a way that can be useful to him. Um, Even as like he does spend a lot of time recollecting things, and the way that he remembers things, not like instantly going back to them, but he says, for example, like um, the feast where he's raised to be a journeyman. That's his point of reference that he goes back to for those memories in that period of his life. He has to go either forwards or backwards from that, and just kind of like just remember things in a series. Um, I think that has profound effects on how you are able to perceive the world and perceive yourself in the world.
And also how you're just unable to avoid certain connections
Mhm.
in your head.
And pains.
Like this event will always be the event that happened 3 days after X.
Yeah, imagine being able to perfectly remember the worst days of your life.
And not just perfectly remember, but if we take them at face value, relive them and resurrect them in his mind.
Hmm.
It
And we get. Mhm.
it was very reminiscent of Slaughterhouse-Five with the
Yes.
B theory of time, where he's literally transported from moment to moment, and he's living in almost every moment at once.
Yes.
I forgot what I was going with that. What was I say before that?
He even early at the start of the book, he says he just like remembers some things from his childhood. You know, watching animals. He cannot tell us how much those mean to him. Um, so just like think of like whatever child experience you had that are important to you, but like that probably shaped you in a meaningful way. Imagine being able to remember those perfectly and to be able to go back to them whenever you wanted, exactly the same way as that they happened to you.
No,
That's
thank
quite a thing.
you.
No?
No,
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm good. I'll take fallible human memory and the ability to forget trauma. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I mean, as a torturer, like as a child in that guild, he would have been exposed to all these things that now he cannot ever erase.
I do love his blasé nature about referring to the various tortures.
Yeah.
Like I would have followed that one up with the tickler or the like nut squeezer or whatever.
The casual way in which he recounts um when he is being interviewed by those two guardsmen, you know, like crushing the nerve in the guy's neck that induces convulsions. And then just ends the chapter. You know, we don't know if that anything else happened there. Maybe he full on tortured that guy. Maybe he just kind of like caused him to have that kind of seizure,
Yeah,
Yeah,
Vulcan
extremely
neck
painful
pinch.
seizures. Like that's just that's just normal for him.
Do you think
anatomy is a dangerous thing.
Yeah,
that this kind of memory would make someone more or less apt to develop a hyper sense of empathy?
Less.
yeah. I
'Cause
mean,
he
Severian
can't
doesn't
he
seem
can't
like
lie
an
to
empathetic
himself.
person.
The
No.
rest of us, we could pretend like things didn't happen because like our memory tells us that we could literally shut down these things. We could not think about them. We could not call them up. But Severian, he can't lie to
Eh,
himself about what happened.
I don't know about that. I can lie to myself while still having knowledge of the things that I'm lying about to myself.
He could lie to himself, I think, about motivations, and he could lie to himself about he could justify things to himself by like, "Well, I was just following orders."
Mhm.
But like what they actually did to the torturers will never leave.
Yeah, I mean, clearly he has very strong feelings about it that he's trying to
Sure, but
stay
like the
away from or something.
lie that like there was no other way. That lie doesn't depend on any level of facts. Factually, it's farcical, but people can still believe it even with a perfect or imperfect memory.
Well, when it comes to motivations, we actually know that Severian, um, he believes that things act of themselves or not at all. So motivations to him are kind of irrelevant, right? Like it's in his beautiful quote about symbol, like how symbols create us, and even if we don't understand the symbols that are around us, still they are fundamentally shaping our actions and character. And he says it's a mistake to think that things like the motivations of things actually have an effect. They act of themselves or they don't. Which is an interest, like all of Severian's digressions in this book, like I read them and I think, that is either a wild way of looking at women, or that's that's a really interesting metaphysical concept that I need to spend a lot of time thinking about before like I have any opinion about them.
I think honestly the meanest person about specific women in the series that we see is Dorcas.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Dorcas is
I,
really interesting.
I think the things that she says about Aegea towards the end are some of the meanest things that anyone in the entire book says about women.
Dorcas has interesting Dorcas has viewpoints that are as interesting as Severian's, I think.
It's like
Dorcas is
she thinks like a man.
All men are torturers, she says.
it's one of my favorite scenes, and not just because of the sex.
I
I
I
think
I
despite
like
the sex.
her. Yeah, whenever she's talking to Severian about concepts, I find it very very interesting. Like the idea that there's a certain amount, like a fixed amount of good and evil in the world, and all you can do is shift where it is.
Tilt
Um,
forwards and backwards, yeah.
yeah, so you can take the evil into yourself and thereby make the world have more good in it. Which, if you believe that, then it makes sense that she's attracted to Severian because this is a guy that looks like he has a lot of evil poured into him,
I can fix
and
it.
I guess he's thereby making the world a better place.
Yeah, obviously.
No, Dorcas's thoughts are very interesting, and you could tell that there's a lot of depth there. That's
Waiting for her to be a princess or something, or an empress.
what
I,
happened.
I I really love the scene where he plucks a flower out of the water, and Severian wonders, well, like, did that flower appear just for her to pluck it out? Because he doesn't see any
Yeah.
other flowers in the water, right?
There was no flower. There wasn't a flower there before, and she went down to pick it up, and there it was. Or
They're
Yes.
in
so he
a
says.
fairly magical place, so
Yeah. So it leads Severian to wonder, like, what is the nature of reality? Is it constructed from our minds? Is it an idealistic world? Or he says, in the light of day, things seem very stark, but at night, he's not so sure anymore.
which makes me wonder if he can shadow teleport. I don't know what his powers are, but I'm excited to find out.
Well, he can cut off people's heads real good.
Yeah, well, he's got a sword with some liquid metal in it, which helps with that.
It's a cool sword, eh?
It is a cool sword. It's a very cool sword.
This is
I
the
want to
line
know
of
what the
division.
hilt is made out of.
That's a good question.
Bones, children's bones.
And as far as Severian's narration goes, I really like how he he works so hard to hide from the reader how he's feeling in so many situations, but it is so clear when you read carefully regardless. That takes real skill to write like that, I think.
Yep. Uh, yep. Kazuo Ishiguro does it really well too.
Hmm.
Like judging what a first-person narrator is talking about and feeling, based on how those around him react or what they
Or
say.
just like how they're acting in the story, like I mean, yeah, like, so it's obviously this is an example of how other people are reacting, but like when Severian is with the Kaibit and
That
sh
scene's so
like
good.
he realizes she's not Thekla, and then like clearly he's growing upset, and then she like tries very hard to placate him and to give him this power fantasy, and
Yeah.
he does all these things that are like really scary when you think about it.
Okay.
Like he tells her that like he can do whatever he wants to her. She's like no one's gonna hear her screaming.
Teenage boys should not interact with prostitutes. Hey.
That whole brothel was quite interesting, and that it's pretending to be the House Absolute with all of their chatelaines, and they have what seems to be, I don't know, just people who look like the real chatelaines, and
Mhm.
somebody pretending to be the autarch. Uh, I really like it.
Well, and
A lot of
the
play
Kaibit,
acting going on in this story.
yes, the Kaibit gives him a monologue about how it's the truly strong who can force their delusions to become reality.
That seems to placate him too, right?
It placates him.
It's like I could be Thika. I'm no different from Thika. And if they are
Yeah,
Kaibits, what is a Kaibit?
You
I
know
have
the
no
lexicon
idea.
versus.
I do, but I don't want to. I'm asking Kip.
I have
Yes.
no idea.
This is a word you can look up.
Okay, I'll look up Kaibit.
How do you spell it?
Khaibit.
I think.
Well, the first is definitely about
Shadow
the
Woman.
Witchers. First link is about the Witchers.
Yeah. So it is very
The
much
shadow of a man. It could partake of
mm,
funerary offerings and was able to detach itself from the body and travel at will.
The ancient Egyptians believed a personality to be made up of a Ka, or double, or Ba, or soul, and a Kaibit, or shadow. So a shadow woman. I don't want to say. Yeah, there's more.
Clones grown from aristocratic women to provide them with rejuvenating blood.
You looked it up. I didn't.
I looked up and that was what Reddit gave me.
So maybe she is Thekla. She's no different from Thekla.
Yeah, she's a clone. Looks like so.
But that brings the question: Why the hell would there be a clone of Thekla at a local brothel?
Well, maybe the rejuvenating blood grows old after a certain number of years, and those clones get put out to pasture in brothels.
Maybe she's lying. I don't know. Maybe the guy pretending to be the autarch is lying.
Maybe they make too many of them. Maybe she had production defects.
Oh, Kip, what do you think of that guy's like phallus necklace?
Which guy?
The brothel manager. He had a phallus
Oh,
necklace.
yeah. Well, fetishes are not uncommon.
Hey, nice pun.
Yeah, that's fine.
Excellent.
You know, more power to him, right? That's the idea.
How do you
Yeah.
how do you enjoy this
Er,
style of world building?
I like it quite a bit. I'm
It's
always looking to
it's
put the pieces
yeah.
together.
It's the best type of world building by far.
I think it's the only type of world building. I'm not even willing to call the other info dumpy stuff world building.
Oh, come on. Father Inare's Mirrors was very info dumpy.
Oh, fair enough. But
Um,
I wouldn't even call that world building though. Like to me, world building is like the
It was
stuff
our
that you.
best. It was our best view at FTL jumps.
I'm saying it's part of the story, but
Is
I think
it? Is it part of the story, or is it an entirely different story that got shoehorned in to give us some expose?
it's
mm,
very thematically relevant,
it is very thematically relevant.
Sure.
and
Um,
also it might be important to other stuff.
Oh, I'm sure it's important. I'm sure we're going to find out that there's demons that come from these other worlds, malign intelligences that transmute themselves and into new forms to travel between dimensions. But that wasn't in this
nope,
story yet.
no comment.
Not going there.
I mean, as far as demons go, Severian was called a demon. Well, he was called Death in the Botanical Gardens.
Well, yeah,
By
So
he's
who?
got
there you
the
go.
claw. He's got the claw of the conciliator. He can end time now. I'm sure, right?
As far as that
He,
botanical garden goes,
he's
I don't think
omnipotent now, if we believe Aegea.
um, that specific botanical garden seems to have weird interactions with time as is,
Yeah, it does.
where people from different time periods seem to just kind of show up, or at the very least, the botanical garden maybe itself is layered on top of reality in a bunch of different places in time, and
Yeah,
walking through it, you know kind of phase in
love
halfway
that.
to those
Love
realities,
that.
right?
Yep,
Yeah, because the first room he went in, he
I
spent
love a
about
TARDIS.
what to him didn't feel like very long, and Agia said, "You've been in here for hours." Uh, then he went to the Christian missionaries, which seemed to be some sort of time travel. I do you think that was real, or do you think it was like a
I think it's real.
A holodeck?
I think it was a reconstruction.
Is there a difference?
Yes, because one is like authentic and the other is constructed for a purpose. And the purpose in this case being memorialization of something.
I think somebody of significant will can make them the same, no?
Well, is reality real?
That's basically what Severian's asking himself like 100 different times in this.
Or are they all just shadows that come in at night and reconstruct our reality every morning?
What is reality at its base level?
I don't
How
know.
can we affect it? In what ways do we affect it?
Doesn't include floating citadels in the sky? I don't know.
Yeah, that was almost miraculous, wasn't it?
Almost miraculous, yeah. The second he touched the claw, a floating citadel appeared.
And
Yep.
then vanished. Yeah.
And then, you know what? He's touched the claw since and it hasn't reappeared, so
So
Yeah.
no thoughts to what that might have been.
Either there is an invisible citadel above Nessus at all times, or it's floating in some sort of alternate dimension, but can be called to intersect with this one at need.
Interesting.
I don't know. It's
I'm sure the listeners love listening to your thoughts. They could be true.
Kip, what'd
maybe
you
it's
think of Doc?
maybe it's a presentiment, a vision of a future time when Severian will bring a citadel down into low orbit or over Nessus.
Okay.
What were you gonna say, Ash?
Oh, well, now I need to just give a shout out to Warhammer 40K for like totally stealing that image and making like the entire faction of the Adeptus Sororitas around it. You know, battle nuns that just come in like they go between the stars and floating cathedrals that are also warships.
Love it. Love it.
Yep.
Speaking of nuns, how
The Empress of Forever did that.
what's the Empress of Forever?
Max Gladstone book. That was it was okay.
Okay. Speaking of nuns, any thoughts on the Pellerines and
I liked how devoted
yeah.
Severian was to returning the claw to them.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, good guy. Good guy,
Got an
Severian.
all-powerful artifact. I'll give it back.
Too bad they passed him in their lamentations.
Well, that reminds me, we gotta talk about Paul Danders and Talos sometime.
What do you think of Dr. Talos and Baldanders? Of course.
Strange man.
Strange man.
Baldanders could be a new husband.
Yeah?
Talos, though,
Big man, big bear man.
yeah, big bear man. Who doesn't like that? Seems very nice and cautious and careful and kind.
Yeah, and his snores wouldn't be that annoying because they're like so bass. It's just kind of like a vibrating you to sleep.
Yeah, you can rent him out as like a cement sifter.
Yeah, I think I'll just point out that in the chapter where Severian meets him, he mentions that he had troubling dreams that night. Like
Yeah.
like
I caught
stripping blood.
Severian.
and then later he says that he doesn't dream at all. Isn't that weird?
I took that as him just forgetting everything or not wanting to talk about it.
I would say
But
that
he does seem to have a very short memory span.
Stay tuned for more on Baldanders.
That does seem to be the one major drawback of Baldanders as husband is that he will forget what you asked him
what do you
very
think of the
quickly.
relationship
He's also very
between-
sleepy. You know,
Yeah.
That's fine.
he wakes up and immediately wants to. Like, he goes to a park to fall asleep again.
That's fine. That's just like a golden retriever. It's fine.
It's true.
What do you think about the relationship between those two?
One of the least complicated in the book.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Explain it to us, please.
It's a classic live and let live. Severian's like, I don't want to mess with Baldanders. Baldanders is like, I don't want to mess with anybody unless they make me.
I think Kieran was talking about between Dr. Talos and Baldanders.
Oh, that's complicated.
Okay.
Yeah, no, not touching that one yet.
Okay.
That's smart.
Were you
No,
intrigued by the
but
play at
between
all?
Severian and Baldanders, they seem like good, like new buddies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
and Severian's even sticking up for Baldanders with Dorcas. He's like, he's not as scary as he seems. He's actually nice. Was
Dorcas like
good.
absolutely terrified. Honestly, fair.
I'm gonna come down the stage and kill you all.
Rawr.
Severian definitely doesn't understand how much of that is legitimate anger and rage.
I want to point out that the description of Dr. Talos when we first meet him is one of the best I've ever read. It's something like a stuffed fox on a wall, maybe wearing a mask.
In another true reality, Dr. Talos is a stuffed fox on a wall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting coming from, I guess, what we live in our reality, or reading about a fictionalized version of this guy anyway.
It is an interesting idea that the best, the true form of Dr. Talos is someone who has been shot, or at the very least caught, killed, and mounted as a display.
It sort of bring like the concept of truer realities brings to mind Platonism and Plato's concept of the forms, which I definitely think that Gene Wolfe was aware of when he wrote this book.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm sure he was very aware.
He did go to college, right?
Well, Gene Wolfe does seem to be in like this. Like I think in the book, the light itself is described as a shadow of the Increate.
Yes.
Which, if we look at light of reality, right, shining light on reality, I think Gene Wolfe is very concerned's the wrong word, but he thinks a lot about, like, I suppose, these levels of reality. And in being a fictional writer himself, fiction being, the extreme end of, not real. And I suppose as a practicing Catholic, very devout Catholic, God being the ultimate reality. He's very interested in what's in between and drawing lines between them, and what the relationship between them and how you can get closer and closer to that ultimate in creator God, like even in real life. He explores that in a lot of his books, especially this one and Wizard Knight as well.
Yes, this book is so Catholic.
Very Catholic.
It's pretty true.
I love that
like,
line about
Lazarus?
light being the shadow of the Increate.
Saurian's got a lot of really good lines.
Light, especially in this series, takes on that new implication when you think of the fish and the travel between stars, which I'm still wanting to see more of. But
Well,
uh,
the fish
the
and also the Fulligan cloaks that seem to be like a true opposite to light. They suck it all in like black holes. Nothing. They reflect nothing.
And the light that they have is not very powerful either, because it's an old crappy sun.
Yes, they live in a world that is far faded from its previous glory.
which, like, I want to know the orbital distance between their planet and the star.
Oh,
So,
man.
given that there have been many spacefaring, like interplanetary civilizations that like both sprouted from and interacted with Earth in this series, like there is any number of justifications you can come up with for this, right? Like
Also,
they
sun
brought
is
the moon
terrible,
into a closer orbit, like a much closer orbit, right?
and the moon's green
About time.
from
And
plants.
and the moon's green, yeah,
Yeah. Well,
Maybe
what
they
is the
needed-
orbital layout of the system? How is the energy making sense here? Because the natural lifespan of the sun does not include a small, dimly glowing red phase.
Well, it has a red phase.
It does have a red phase, a huge
Yeah.
red phase. Yeah.
I'm
Wait,
gonna be
is
honest,
Nessus an engine that moved the Earth into a further orbit?
It could be.
there is a commonly accepted answer for all of this, but
With numbers?
not with numbers, no,
Aw.
but with like actual explanations. That is hidden deeply in the text, I believe, because I didn't catch it whatsoever. Do you know what I'm talking about, Ash?
I know.
Oh, okay, well, it's
Yeah.
there, and I believe it's
I'm not
basically
very
accepted by
familiar with
people.
all the theories that float around about the Book of the New Sun. I've seen some
Maybe
of
the
them, though.
Botanic Garden is actually the whole planet. And the reason you can't see the glass above the Botanic Garden when you're inside it is because actually the glass is only around the rest of the planet. And the Botanic Gardens are a free space and time that from Nessus only looks inverted.
That's
And
wacky.
that wouldn't be the first structure that we see that seems to be much larger than the container it is, because we also went to the library, which
We
Yep.
did.
extends well past Nessus, the outskirts.
Yeah. And presumably there are all manner of superstructures that exist in this world.
Atrium of Time.
Mm-hmm.
Excited to see that come back up again, I'm sure.
Atrium of Time.
Valencia, that's her name. That's
Yeah.
the girl that lives there.
Valencia. Was she a trainee witch, or was she just? Does
not
she
a
know
witch.
the witches?
She's I think she's heard of the witches, but she's not a witch. Like her family
Yeah.
is located within there, and they used to
Okay.
be prominent,
Yeah.
and now they are no longer. Although
Little
it's
Miss
entirely
Noble
possible
Lady
that the Atrium of Time, the
is in different
point,
times.
yes,
The Valeria.
yes.
God,
Valeria, sorry.
time zones in this book are crazy.
She's an Armajet of the Citadel near the Atrium of Time.
I still don't know what an armiger is, but I've backwards constructed it to like a somewhat high class that seems to be appropriate to bearing arms.
Yes, that's basically it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and classes within this world like do seem to have genuine genetic differences from the
They
rest
seem
of the
to
population.
They seem to all be genetically constructed.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, like the
at some point,
Exaltants are the
at
biggest
some point, it
example.
looks like the Conciliator or someone went back through every human or most of them and confirmed a genetic caste system upon them.
Yeah, there's all manner of ideas that when this could have happened.
But
But
there
yeah,
are
like the
lots
Exaltants are
and
like
lots.
very tall, very thin,
Yes.
very different looking.
But it seems to be, it's not exactly related to class though, because there's a lot of bleed over and a lot of people who maybe look like they might have some Exaltant blood or Armiger blood
Yes.
or Optimate blood in their
Yes.
in their
See,
past
the
or
time
family.
of the caste system is in its decline.
Yeah, I mean, Gerlos thinks that he might be descended from Exaltants or Optimists or something, right?
Sure.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's enough so that everyone is considered an optimate at like a street market. If they feel like trying to butter you up, they'll start calling you optimate.
Every child in the Guild of the Torturers likes to think of themselves as the scion of some Exaltants or Optimates.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of Master Gerlos, by the way, what'd you guys think of the little section where Severian describes who he is? It has the very funny section about how he mispronounces quite common words, but he also seems to listen and converse with AIs that exist in the ship of the Madachin Tower, and which converse with other AIs or at least other voices.
Yeah, that was weird, and I want more.
I
Yeah,
imagine more
so
like a ham radio.
ham radio. I like the idea. It's like these are like culture AIs. Mine have just been kind of stuck here.
They're doing a bad job.
I just figured that's how he gets his orders. Although
His
he just
orders?
letters.
Yeah.
And
Well, and he's the only one that's brave enough to go up there, right? Like, so Master Palaemon and Master Malrubius presumably
Rubius
never.
is dead.
Malrubius is dead, but even
Is
when he was
he?
alive, it doesn't seem like anybody Gerlos talks to those. And yes, is Malrubius dead? I mean, Severian tells us that he is. He sure does seem to keep showing up, though, eh?
He's in his Force Ghost age. Slash, maybe he just retired, and maybe he's a fish now.
Maybe he's a fish. What do you guys think of the relationship between Severian and Thekla?
Complicated.
Illuminating.
It's a teenage boy who falls in love with a beautiful woman. It's a woman who is trying her hardest to, first of all, find companionship when she's in a terrible situation, and she's completely separated from everyone that she knows and any comforts that she has. She's also trying to seduce him so that she could try to get some help from him. Like, that's like one of her only ways to get there. Furthermore, she's trained in like palace intrigue, so she knows how to manipulate people. But she's also pitiable and needs
He's
help.
stuck wearing a dress that's only appropriate for between late afternoon and early evening.
Yeah, complicated.
Yeah.
I like the indirect indirect reflections Severian has on their relationship after it's over. Especially the part where when Agia attacks him and tries to claw out his eyes, he says, "This is oh yes, this is she's just doing what Thekla used to do back when she couldn't take it anymore."
Yeah,
And
that was dark.
right, and then that just kind of recontextualizes a lot of their scenes together.
She-Wolf likes to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Severian is a boy who knows how to be cold a lot of the time,
He
but
tries.
he tries real hard. And you know
Yeah.
what? He does an admirable job
Oh
most
man,
of the time.
I wouldn't have been able to take that and still stay sane.
What do you think of the scene where he's clearly, I shouldn't say clearly because nothing much is clearly in this book, but he is obviously bothered by her remarks of calling him a nice boy.
He's a sweet boy.
He's a sweet boy, and he'll take
Well,
care
that's
of
not
you.
what he's trying to be.
No, he wants to be the man to her. He wants to be
Yeah,
her only.
he's trying to be a powerful torturer.
Yeah, that's a pain we've all felt growing up, right?
All too true.
Yeah. Yeah. I also quite like the section where he's at the beginning he's reflecting is okay, if I have ever conversed, I've been in the company of people who are intelligent and educated, and if I haven't shamed myself around them, or they haven't been ashamed to be around me, that is due to the Thekla that I knew and the Thekla that lives in me now.
Mhm.
Um,
We
which
all
is
have our
kind
own
of
little
funny because
Theklas.
he says this, but he also has a lot of instances where people are saying, "Oh, you're really actually quite smart, Severian. You have like a soul of philosopher or something."
He is pretty smart.
He is absolutely, and his reflections are
Sure,
intelligent.
for his age.
Not even for his age. I think he's just a smart dude.
He's smart with such
He's a
huge
smart man with a
blockers.
lot of naivete left.
Oh, not yeah, very very naive.
But sure, I have no problem acknowledging his intelligence, even if I maybe have a problem acknowledging his wisdom.
Wisdom is something he's lacking.
I think
Yes.
he at some point he says that he's become wise.
Oh, several
Towards the end
times.
of the story. Yeah.
Also, several times he said, "I have become a man."
Yes,
Yep.
yes, that's the point at which I became a man. And then later on, he's like, okay, this is the night where I became a man. I think that's he's saying it as he was thinking it at the time. It's like this experience happened. He's like, okay, I'm a man now, and then he realizes that's not the case. That he's still a boy. And then when does he become a man? I don't know. I think it might be when he gives the knife to Thekla.
I think he's still a boy.
I think he's still a boy.
Yeah, interesting. I
Yep.
think getting kicked out of the guild is the period where it's the
Really,
transition
because he can't even manage pocket change at that point.
I mean,
I
like
don't know how
young
to write a
adults for
check.
sure, but
That just seems like
like
such an arbitrary thing.
I don't count those as men.
interesting.
If you want to read a book about that, The Wizard Knight is.
I would suggest Wizard of Earthsea.
Well, in Wizard Knight, there's actually a teenage boy from like the southern United States who's transported into a magical world, has sex with an elf, and turns into a man.
That's
the
when he
next
becomes
day.
a man.
Yep.
Wow.
Like he's like literally a boy trapped in a man's body,
Ah, nice.
and yeah, it's a metaphor.
I've forgotten Gene Wolfe wrote Isekai.
He might have more than that.
So the point where he becomes a man distinction becomes, I think, interesting in the context of him reflecting that the categories in which we place things are stronger than the concepts of the things themselves. You know, we put masses of undifferentiated things into these categories that are stronger than our words are stronger than the concepts themselves. So like this has interesting implications for him
Semantic
thinking of
arguments on the internet.
and like any time when he thinks of things in categories, like you always have to like refer back to this statement that he made, you know, that it's the words that have power, not necessarily the things themselves. It's the symbols that are shaping us. And I think that reframes a lot of what he's saying.
Yeah. I mean, it's why he killed Aegea's brother, Agilus.
Yeah.
He was in his symbol as a combatant, as a
Mm.
fighter, as a gladiator.
And then as an
Eh,
executioner.
Yep. And then as an executioner, he had his mask on and everything.
And the entire circumstance was caused by a fiction that was made real.
Yep.
By Agia and Agilis. Although notably, that the challenge itself was not a challenge of words. You know, it was just kind of like handing him a symbol with which, you know, it is later explained. Okay, this is how the words I'm going to use to explain what happened and to steer you along the direction I want.
And an Avern is quite a potent symbol on its own.
Yes, and Avern is like a woman.
Battle flower.
This book is often criticized for being a series of random events with no cause and effect and no clear motivations for the participants.
I mean, upon finishing this book, I immediately started to understand why it might be combined with its sequel.
Yeah.
I
Really,
haven't read the
series
sequel,
is one
but
book.
it very much felt like the book ended on like leaving the Shire, like just setting out the door.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
a lot of ways, yes. I mean, the book and the series as a whole, like they have such a complicated relationship with causality that I think those criticisms are kind of missing the point.
I agree. I agree with that 100%. But if I had to judge this as a thriller,
0 to 5 stars.
If I had to judge this as a thriller, 2 stars max.
If I had to judge this as a paranormal romance, 1.5.
1.5, yeah.
Yeah,
It had that great sex scene.
it did. Yes, that was hot and heavy.
And the first sex scene was pretty domestic violence-y, if you're into that.
It was very Blade Runner.
So you think those criticisms are missing the point? I agree. But did you have any issues with character motivations, for example?
No,
none.
Did you
the
have
character seems so strongly motivated to me that like
I had
think
issues with character preparation. I think Agia was a mastermind to be able to like navigate everything and steal the claw.
Yeah, I
And
think that was
almost the
just
sword.
I think the claw thing was just happy circumstances for her.
Okay, so you think that bit of destiny was not hers?
No, I don't.
Destiny's an interesting bit to use word to use. Let's revisit that later.
I mean, clearly destiny intervened somewhere with the claw.
I mentioned earlier that I think that they might be part of a conspiracy, and I'm still shopping around that that theory. And in that case, like the driver would have to be on it. Did you notice we bet the driver before?
Yes.
Was he the one that took him into the House of the Absolute?
No, he was
Right.
on the riverbank in one of the early scenes when the apprentices had to kick those people out and they got to fight.
Oh. And then he drowned.
Yeah.
Then no, I did not notice that.
No, he didn't. I could be mistaken, but I know we've seen that guy before. And so that guy would have to be in on it.
Would he, or would he just have to following Agia's directions as she navigates the city that she knows so well and
they were in a race,
controls the
though.
men that she knows how to control so well?
Weren't they racing with somebody?
Were they in a race, or was
Yes.
Agia paying someone to follow them?
Again, it depends on if you think she's just trying to show Severian a good time and distract him while he prepares for his death, or if you think that she has more motivations, and there are more people in their conspiracy. It could be.
How did the claw get into a Sabertash? Was it her, or was it the claw?
Well, it's likely that Agia knew about it being a Sabertash at least, given that she tried so hard to get to it.
Maybe she wanted something else.
Yeah,
I think she knows a lot about weapons.
Well, it does seem like Terminus Est is a very special weapon.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
they said they know of the maker, or they know the maker.
Yep, the maker seems quite famous.
And it's so strikingly valuable that Agilis says that Severian committed an immoral act by refusing to even entertain the possibility of selling it, which has got to be the most ridiculous justification for murder that I have ever heard.
I've heard that justification before.
Have
but not
you?
for murder.
Oh man.
But yes, I've heard that like if you didn't want it stolen, you shouldn't have brought it around here.
Like
Wow.
Like you were just like literally asking for it. Yeah.
I think that one is less ridiculous than what Agilus is saying, right? Because he's saying that like in our society, if you refuse to sell things that are like if someone makes you an offer for something, you have to like agree on a price, right? And you can't
My,
just
my
refuse to sell things. Society falls apart then. You're the evil one.
After we turn off the bots, I'll tell you the rest of the story.
I
Excellent.
was thrice wronged by you, Severian. This is all your fault. Yeah, I
Thrice
laughed out
wrong, then
loud
so you
during
can
that.
ask a boon.
I laughed. I laughed hard when Talos was talking about the things they found in the droppings after stage plays. They found a baby pig one day. We found a baby.
They found a baby. What did Dr. Talos and Baldanders do with the baby?
I bet they left it there.
I
I
doubt
don't
it.
think that's the
I,
enterprising spirit of Dr. Talos.
yeah, I don't think Dr. Talos is going to waste a perfectly good baby.
Yeah.
Well, they said they ate the baby pig. They didn't say they ate the baby.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
There are better things to do with baby than to eat it.
I
You
hope the
can use
mother
it for
came
parts.
later and picked it up. Um,
You can
what else?
pickle it and put it in a jar and use it in your next set.
Yeah, there are quite a few funny sections in this book. Gene Wolfe has an odd sense of humor,
Yes.
like dark sometimes.
Baby.
Um,
I want to know the level of technology that like the average person has access to.
Wildly variant, I
Wildly
would say.
variant. Yeah.
Wildly variant. Yeah, like so I
If you just go
envision like
digging around, what do you find that still works?
and like works in what capacity and
Yeah.
what do you use it for that may not be its intended purpose at all, right?
I'm interested in their masks.
Tortures?
No, everyone's masks. So like, they seem to have masks that look exactly the same as real human faces, and like to people who don't know that they're wearing a mask, they just work like a human face, and you can't tell unless you could see the seams. Because like, for example, when he goes into the costume shop, he tells Agilus, "I could see the strings on your mask," and I took that to interpret that. I interpreted that like he was wearing a mask. The only differentiation that he could tell is the fact that like he could actually see it.
There were
Like,
ribbons. And he demanded that he take it off.
What is drag like in this world?
Profoundly different.
Interesting, I bet.
Yeah.
What does a drag Avern look like?
Really, really big. Feathers. Enough to kill the entire audience if swung.
So what do you guys think about the way that the librarians recruit their members?
I want to find the golden book.
It's a creepy section though, yeah? He says that the librarians cluster around the child like vampires, I think he says. Master Olton himself actually seems to agree, and he says that like he actually can't judge the torturers too much because their method recruiting new people is kind of messed up too.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be a librarian in this system.
Yeah, especially since like as the master of the library, like okay, he used to be really into reading books and consuming the knowledge therein, seemingly without a purpose, which I think is interesting. Um, but now he's just interested in caring for the books themselves. He doesn't care at all about what they contain.
Yep. Which it's all you really need to do that job. You just
Yeah,
need to be
absolutely.
concerned about the persistence of the books themselves.
And funnily enough, he describes just like a
He's not head
standard
scholar.
USB stick that we have nowadays, you know? There's this little thing you can hang from your ear that contains more books than the library itself. Yeah, we have those now.
I mean, that library seemed real big.
It's real big, yeah. But
Didn't it
how
contain
much
like every book ever?
it contains a lot. And there's a lot of really interestingly described books, right? Like the perfumed books that like have um have like hallucinogenic effects when you read the book. That's really cool.
Yeah, how do you get that on a USB stick?
Difficulty.
I had a feeling it was connected to library space, like in Discworld style.
I mean, it definitely has some sort of library space.
Well, in
Right.
Discworld, there's a library
Yeah,
spell
I
for L
know.
space. Oh, Ash
Oh yeah,
doesn't.
I think I've heard of that part.
And
And
all
well,
libraries in
does the
the
Discworld
university.
library have um, intelligent rats living in there?
I don't know how to interpret that. Like they started their own writing system.
Yeah.
I did not take that as positive of a rat writing system.
I don't know. There's so many times in these books where, like, I don't know whether to take something metaphorically or literally.
Well, what's the difference?
That's the problem.
If you
Often,
listen to
often it's both.
Merriam-Webster, nothing.
Stupid people ruin all the words.
Mm. Yeah, I don't like the modern dictionary culture. Bad.
Modern dictionary
Prescriptivism all the
are
way.
are there?
Mm.
What's a dictionary culture?
The idea
Um,
that dictionaries should change with the times to describe the ways that people talk,
yeah,
instead of
so
staying true to the ways that people should talk.
yeah, what was that what was that word that's a negation of the word that people use as the word itself?
Leave.
Hmm?
Oh, auto
Irregardless.
antonym.
Yes, irregardless. Yes, irregardless. And the one of the dictionaries was like getting very vocal online about how yes, people are just using irregardless to mean regardless, and this is a fine thing. This there is no problem here. And while I'm fine with the dictionary like kind of being uncomfortably okay with that, I don't like them being very gung ho about it. I think that irregardless being used to mean regardless is a bad thing.
But it's not the dictionary's job to tell people how to talk. It's the dictionary's job to tell people
Well,
how
It
they
is
do
in
talk.
French, you know?
Well, that's why the French suck.
That's why
I'm
the
sorry for offending
French
our French users, but that's just a bad way of doing linguistics.
no, it's based.
are you Merriam-Webster or are you Oxford English?
I don't know, is Oxford English more prescriptivist?
Yes, they are.
Oh,
They're,
wow.
they're also the ones that hold that like certain words that haven't been used in everyday language for hundreds of years are still valid words.
I
They
agree.
are.
Clearly Gene Wolfe does too.
Clearly.
Well, I think the idea of a valid and an invalid word is kind of silly anyway.
Sure. Well, but in this case, it's the difference between an archaic word and a non-archaic word.
Yeah, whether it deserves to be in a dictionary, I could see the merits of arguing.
Yes, but does it deserve to be in the dictionary with the word archaic next to it or not?
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you, if you looked up a lot of Gene Wolfe's words in this book, they would be.
Well, a
Oh,
lot of
wow.
them don't even show up in dictionaries.
They don't. Quite a few of them show up on Wiktionary though.
Interesting. Probably because of this.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
But Wiktionary is really, really good. Like, especially if you're looking for etymology and whatnot.
I was looking up a lot of Latin words for clothing, and then I found out that they were not actually real translations of the Latin words for clothing. They were just put in there for the translator's convenience.
Hmm.
I felt betrayed by
Yes.
the ending translation notes.
Yeah, well, so in the Atrium of Time, then there are some sayings in Latin, or that are put in there as Latin, and Gene Wolfe says that yes, the Latin isn't actually Latin. Latin is just kind of a future archaic language,
Yep.
and it's translated incorrectly, which I think is said in the Lexicon Earthus. I heard this on one of the podcasts. It might have been Thinking Out Loud, or Elzebo Soup, but yeah, interesting, eh? They're mistranslating their own fake language.
I hate it.
I love it. That's actually one of my favorite
I
parts of this
might
book.
love it eventually, but for now, I hate it.
No,
What do
like
you
it's infinitely frustrating, but at the same time, it's like, oh, you're reading a book. This book is if you're reading speculative fiction of some sort in a secondary world, a world that takes place like let's say Lord of the Rings style, you have to accept that it's been translated into your local language through some other means. Maybe there's a meta explanation for it, a la like Tolkien, where it's Red Book of Westmarch and Tolkien got a handle of it and then he translated it into modern English. Or if it's the Gene Wolfe conceit where he's like, I this came to me from the future and I'm translating it. I'm just translating it. I might make some mistakes. Basically the same thing, but it gives it extra layer of it just gives it an extra layer where you have to give like a hermeneutical look at like what I'm reading and what's actually happening.
There's more ambiguity introduced. Gene
A
Wolfe does
lot
better
more.
than Tolkien, by the way.
Like,
I mean, he also does it more than Tolkien.
Yeah.
A lot more.
A lot more.
Again, just layers and layers and layers between, fiction and reality.
Yes.
Yeah, but
Um,
to me, sometimes it does feel like a little bit too little to grasp onto at this point in
Mhm.
time.
Kip, what did you think of that play?
The play was fun. I love
Yeah.
a mad scientist play.
And, and
Um,
and a play that, even though they didn't
I
know
love
their
audience
lines or their
involvement.
parts, Dorcas and Severian were still able to execute it to Dr. Talos's vision. Isn't that weird?
Very weird.
That's very weird. I think it's a case of things acting of themselves that Severian was referencing.
Oh, it acted out itself when they weren't there the last two performances too.
I think it's a case of him being able to like show off his manipulative abilities and also his understanding of real deep in the bone tropes, so that Severian hardly needed any coaching. He just had
Mhm.
to be the evil torturer, and Dorcas had to be innocence.
Yes, innocence. Yeah, and Severian's death. Although,
Yes.
so the play is going to show up again later. Severian mentions this himself, and it's going to be shown in its full detail. And there is, um,
Yeah, you'll get the whole
when you
play,
see it in its full
all the
detail,
lines.
it's yeah, you get the lines. It's shocking that Severian could have come up with a story that fit in with Dr. Talos and Baldanders.
But yeah,
Well,
So yeah, we'll discuss that later. But
the play is one of the most discussed aspects of the series.
yeah, it's
I mean,
extremely
I
meta.
think Dorcas is from the future. I think.
Oh yeah,
Really
Yeah. Yeah.
interesting.
Um,
When did she
and
die?
Severian,
Oh, so like she died in the future, and like
traveled backwards like
yeah,
Primer.
yeah, I
okay,
think she died in the future and got sent back to come back to life by Severian.
okay,
Got sent back.
No, not necessarily got sent back by Severian, but got sent back in order to meet Severian in the past.
did he kill her?
I don't know.
Okay,
I think he wanted to save her, or someone wanted him to save her.
interesting.
But yes, no, I absolutely think that Dorcas is from the future.
Why?
Because she seems to remember things in an interesting fashion, and also her amnesia provides cover for future knowledge.
I see. All right.
Um, and Severian feels a weird connection to her, which I think is related to his ability to feel through time.
How did you
Uh,
feel about the way that this book ends?
I already told you it felt like leaving the Shire.
No, but like so,
I think he meant on a
um,
cliffhanger.
yeah.
Uh,
So there's like something
Follow the yellow
happens
brick
at the
road.
gate. Something happens at the gate, and then people start panicking, and it's like a stampede basically. And then Severian's like, "Okay, I'm getting the story now. Okay, come up, pick it up again later." And spoiler alert,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
does
It's
not pick up where the story leaves off. I don't know if we ever find out what happens at the wall that like causes this commotion, or what the implications of the commotion are even.
honestly also reminded me a little bit of Hyperion's ending.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
interesting.
we got some stories, and then we're about to
Then it
go.
ends, and you
When
get
we were
the
about to
idea
like
of it's going to go a
change
certain way.
geography. Yeah, we are
I
about to
think
get to where we were going.
Here are the last
um,
words of the book. Here I pause. If you wish to walk no further with me, reader, I cannot blame you. It's no easy road. That's a perfect way to end the book.
It is no easy road, though it was easier than I thought it would be of 25% in.
yeah,
Good.
Yeah,
that's good.
I was not
In that
expecting I
it
was
was
not
easier to
expecting the
follow,
like
or
lack of time skips as much.
okay,
Yeah, it's mostly one long contiguous, narrative. He's got a few skips in his
Yeah, it
childhood,
skips at the start. Yeah.
and
well,
then
and
after.
skips within scenes that are so they're non-obvious, like the scene where he sleeps with Thekla, right?
Mm,
Like
that does happen.
he
Yeah,
goes to sit down, and then all of a sudden he's buttoning up his stuff, and he's very flustered again. And then
that's
he
like a
kind of shows
movie.
him out. It's like they had sex just then. By
In
the
a
way,
movie, it would be
Movie.
obvious.
yeah.
Lay down naked, wake up, button their shirt. Oh, we know what happened.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's a modest way to show sex. I'm quite used to it.
I'm surprised he didn't cut to like just describing a train going through a tunnel.
There's trains in this world?
It's an advanced society. Of course, there's trains.
I don't
You
think
know,
there
they're
are
not
trains.
barbarians.
Eh,
I don't think there's trains.
they seem
I think
pretty
it's true.
barbaric.
It
Trains require infrastructure. Flyers do not.
can't be barbaric. This is a gigantic city.
It is a big city. And all
With
the
more-
roads are closed. How are people getting around if not for trains?
It's
Answer me that.
dryers.
The alleys,
Flyers.
No. That was ridiculous.
horses,
No, there's no
Canals.
horses. No
Canals,
horses.
yes. That is true, canals.
Oh yeah, lots of boats.
I mean, horses here, and just like with heavy air quotes around the term.
We
Just
got
like-
our word for it. It's destrier.
Yeah,
That's
just
true.
like tricycle is
Destrier,
a
yeah.
dog. A
But
dog
like
with
a destrier is a type of horse.
yes, generally.
Yeah, a dog with the mouth the size of his torso.
Yeah, and he picks it up and it's like he's like fully as long as Severian is, and when like he opens his mouth, like the teeth, like there's so many teeth and they're so
So
huge.
many teeth.
Yeah, they're like the size of his hand or something. The teeth,
Fido,
Wow.
what big teeth you have.
right? And the bear tower people, like that's a weird guild, right?
I laughed quite a bit whenever the word bear came up in this novel.
I mean, the people of the bear guild take bears as their lovers, so I'm sure you've had experience with that, Kip. Very relatable.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that's says that I really like is that he finds the patterns of the guild of torturers repeated mindlessly everywhere. In relation to like he was talking about the bear guild.
Yeah,
but,
I mean the patterns of guilds are persistent.
Well, and he says there, as we are to our clients, so is the hunter to the hunted, the autarch to his citizens, men to women. You know,
Every time the autarch comes up, I'm like, okay, what's he gonna say about it in this sentence? And how is that gonna reflect things later?
Notably, the autarch, like the coin that he's given that has the autarch's face on it, is an androgynous face.
Oh, hey, Severian.
You think Severian has an androgynous face? Or
I kind of view him as like rat-faced.
interesting.
Why?
I don't have a good reason for it. I often don't with the faces that I see for characters in my head.
I don't think it's probably accurate, but it's an interesting thing to say at least. I have
imagine
the
his face is
folio.
at least human.
Yeah, I have the folio copy of the book The New Sun, and there are some very interesting illustrations in here. I highly recommend that people, first of all, if you're interested in high quality copies of books, this is a really good one. But also, if you're not, I highly recommend checking out the illustrations that were done. They're on the folio website, I believe.
I think I saw a link to those.
Yeah, the artist
The
did a great
heights
job.
were interesting.
The artist did a great job of simultaneously doing like really good artwork that still conveys how murky and ambiguous the series is.
Fun.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been going for an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah, shall we?
Yeah, I suppose
Hopefully next time Wombat could join us.
for the Claw of the Conciliator, probably next month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. So that's been our meandering talk on Shadow of the Torture by Gene
On this
Poole.
meandering novel.
It's very picaresque. If you want to talk to us about this book, please come to our Discord, the Legendarium. I am Huron Fan. I'm joined by Ashmon
But yeah. Thanks
Yeah,
for listening.
and Kip.
Yeah.
So we got some more stuff coming
Yep.
to you. So thanks for listening.
Interested to see it.
Bye.
See
Bye.
ya.
Stop.